Hi Homeworthy, I'm Trino Verkade. Welcome and can't wait to show you around Birdcage, Marrakech.
This summer, spend the hottest months of the year in style with Homeworthy as we visit the most extraordinary homes around the world. From the sun-soaked shores of the Hamptons to the classic beachfronts of Nantucket to the vibrant courtyards of Morocco, be sure to subscribe to Homeworthy's summer series to make every day feel like a vacation. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, my name is Trino Verkade. I'm the CEO of the Sarabande Foundation, an arts and cultural foundation based in London. Welcome to my home in Marrakech. So I started my career working for the designer Alexander McQueen, which is obviously quite a well-known designer, and I was the first employee, so it was a long time ago, and it's been an amazing experience. I joined with Lee, as he was known, just when there was just the two of us, and it was a very, very small brand, and it was an incredible experience to be part of such an amazing creative journey with somebody that was really an artist in his own right, but celebrated artisans making things by hand, things being beautiful and thoughtful all the way. And after Lee passing, I went to go live in New York, and I worked for another amazing creative, which was Thom Browne. And I've been extremely lucky to work with some of the most amazing creative fashion designers of our time, and be friends with so many of them as well. And then from there, I came back to London to look after the Sarabande Foundation, which was established by Lee and uses his estate to support our next generation of creatives. And that's not just in fashion, but we look after artists, fashion designers, jewelers, to make sure that there's a really strong pipeline of creativity coming through our next generation, and that there's a support system that will allow us to enjoy creative minds for many decades to go. But Marrakech is such a beautiful place. I've been coming to stay with friends who have homes here. And one New Year's Eve, I just felt I felt the calling, and I felt I needed to come and find my own little jewel in the city. I looked at a couple of little places, but in my head I had a really clear idea of the kind of architecture I was looking for and what that home would mean to me. And there are many big houses and many different styles in Marrakech, especially in the Medina, which is the old part of the city. But I was really drawn towards something which had these beautiful arches, and I wanted those wafty curtains that we always see. And when I first saw this home, it was quite special because it had all the architectural details that I fell in love with immediately. This was such a unique architecture that allowed that kind of light and space to flow down through all the different floors. And I was just totally drawn towards the house. It hadn't been touched probably since the 80s and 90s, so it was a large renovation. I first bought it and I thought, no, I won't do too much, and I think we always say that. But of course, once you get started, and really once you discover the magic artisans that are in the city and that Morocco brings, it was such a joy to do the work, because I live in London. There are so many skills that have been lost along the way, but Morocco still retains those skills, especially in these beautiful old riads and houses. So it became, I suppose, a labour of love. It was just an amazing opportunity to work with artisans that are still making handmade details that can be celebrated and you can live with. and they're part of the architecture, and they've stood the test of time, and they're made for the environment. They're made to last for decades. So yeah, although I didn't think I needed to do everything in the house, the opportunity to do every room, every wall, every floor, every detail was just too much. So I ended up doing the full renovation. Welcome to the salon. This is the winter living room, and I wanted to make it as warm and cozy as possible. And it's got all the colours of the Riad, which is the golds, the ochres, the darks, the blacks. And the whole Riad has got an Art Deco theme, and that's really where I took the colour palette from. So you'll see that everywhere in all the rooms of the Riad, especially using this beautiful gold pattern, which is the Zelige tiles on the floor, and using the really warm Tadalak colour on the walls. And then obviously I've got the black ceiling and the black fireplace, which is really pulling the whole colour palette together. And I'm going to show you some of the pieces that I brought in to make this really cosy for when those cold winter nights eventually come and find us. So here's one of my first pieces, which is a Tamagut candelabra. And this is something from Marrakech, and it's my friends bought me when they first came to see the house as a gift, a housewarming gift. You can see I fill it full of lots of different candles which light up the room. And here's one of the artists from the foundation. This is one of the most recent artworks to come to Birdcage. And this is really epitomises what I love about the art I collect. Jo Grogan, who's the artist, she is both a sculptor and a hand carver, and this piece represents a Dutch artist who has been forgotten because she was a female artist, and her name is Rachel Royce, and Jo has taken some of her old paintings of tulips because she's from the Dutch golden era of paintings, and has hand carved this beautiful tulip, and it's in the colours that I love to celebrate in Birdcage, which is this beautiful, pale, beautiful natural colour with rich gold, which is a 24 karat gold finish, which she has created. And the table is a beautiful piece of natural wood. As much as possible, I try to bring wood and warm materials into the Riad because of the architecture. You have 4 walls going round, and it can echo quite a lot with all the hard materials. So my one decision was, whatever possible, make it warm, make the materials soft, use wood and natural materials that will stop the echoing and make a very warm feeling when I'm here in the house. So I have a very beautiful thick rug, which, as we all know, Marrakech is very famous for making rugs, and this was made especially for the room. So it was designed to fit in with the colours and tie everything together. Then here I have some of the other artworks from Sarabande artists. This is George Richardson, and he has some sculptures of custard creams. If you're English, you will know what a custard cream is. It's a very famous old-fashioned biscuit, and I've just elevated it. I've put them into frames. They're in brass and they're in copper, and they tie, again, the whole room together with the artworks. And then as you move around, you'll see there's some other artworks here. This is one of my largest art pieces that I bought especially for Birdcage, and it's by Mattia Kopp, and he is a sculptor, and he uses both his hand and craftsmanship, but he also works with engineering as well, which you can see from this amazing large sculpture, which is a sound sculpture. So he listens to moments that are in your memory, whether it be somebody breathing, somebody laughing, and he records the sound, and then he takes that sound recording and the shape of it, and he'll create sculptures that are based on those movements in the sound waves. So this is the sound wave that has been created for me. And this, as I say, was designed especially for the Riad. Well, it was bought especially for the Riad and fits in perfectly. And then I have an old bar. I bought a lot of antiques for the house because I love old things. It's kind of like things were made so beautifully in the past, and it's a great joy to go to antiques markets both here in Marrakech and bring things over from home as well that I'd collected over time. And then I had this beautiful walnut sofa. This was designed especially for Birdcage, and it's finished with amazing silk, which has come from Rogers and Goffegum, and it's just a really luxurious place for me to lie down and relax with my friends, get the fire going, light the candles, have an early evening drink. We play backgammon, and we just spend really good time both here in the Riad, upstairs, downstairs. But this is my cozy room. This is the space where it's all wrapped around and made to feel warm, cozy, relaxing, and for those, short winter nights that we have. So some other pieces that I bought when I was here in Marrakech are these beautiful these are actually tent pegs, and you'll find these in all the antique shops all over Marrakech, and they're all handmade. I've actually mounted mine to stay on the floor as wooden sculptures. But yeah, these would have been used, as I say, to keep the most elaborate tent peg that you can find. And the whole floor in the salon is this beautiful gold mustard zalige in a herringbone design. And the zalige is a fairly expensive tile that you can have. But each tile, what's so special is each tile is handmade. No two tiles are the same. They are left to dry in the sun, and they are glazed multiple times, so that you get, and it's a real skill to lay down the tiles and to make them. And you get a real beautiful undulation of colours in the room that you can just see, and it's both rich because it's that gorgeous like gold ochre mustard kind of shades that make you feel really warm inside. But when you look at it closely, it's like every single one is different and has just been sitting there drying in the sun, glazed by hand. The edges are all slightly wobbly, so they don't sit together really neat. And that's something that I love about both the work of the artisan and about celebrating some of the craftsmanship of the past. And again, I go back to this idea of what perfect really is. Perfect isn't the same. I think that's something I was able to celebrate when I did up the Riad, is celebrating that when you take from nature, when you take a piece of wood, when you take an artist who's created a sculpture by hand, they are never going to be the same. It's impossible. And I think that's just something that we're so lucky to be able to celebrate in this house. So when I was thinking of what to call the Riad, I knew I wanted to celebrate the birds that I hear every morning when I'm sitting here, and there are so many birds, and considering you're in a city, it's amazing. So I wanted to celebrate the sound of the birds and the bird song, but I suppose I just also wanted a visual representation of it. This is almost like my gilded cage, so in a way Birdcage is my cage. Obviously there's no birds in cages here, we hope they're all flying free. And so a really good friend of mine, Giles Deacon, who's an amazing designer, fashion designer, but also an incredible illustrator and artist, I asked him to do the illustration for me of a birdcage for the signage. And yeah, it's to really encapsulate that this is my gilded cage, and to celebrate the architecture that you see as well throughout the city. You have all these beautiful like metal ironwork that you see, and it also reminds me of like old bird cages. So it was really about just pulling that all together and this becoming my little gilded cage that I can escape to. I leave the salon, this is where the courtyard is, which is what all the Riads are really famous for. And it was important for me to add a lot of greenery and plants because I really wanted to feel like I was in a garden and I was surrounded by nature, even though I might be in a city. So you could see very large bamboo and plants all within this little courtyard. And obviously I have the running water, which is something which is traditional in all Moroccan gardens. And this is my little cocktail pool where I can dangle my feet, my friends, we could sit round and have a little chat. And I've finished here, you can see this is one of the detailing that I really focused on in the Riad. And this is this beautiful Zalige detail, which I designed. And the man who did this for me, he sat and he literally hammered each of these little shapes out by hand. These are not made in these shapes. He had to create each little part of it just to get this beautiful detailing, which really pulls the whole house together. And it's a combination of beige mat, which is the natural tile that you will see all over Morocco, and it's beautiful because it ages really well, and it's a clay tile that's dried out in the sun, and again it will last hopefully for many hundreds of years to come, which is what you really want in this very hot country. And the beautiful Zalige, which is where they've layered on all the lacquer layers to get the rich colours that you see in the house. And then here I have a few little nice quiet seating areas. The seating here was the first thing I bought. It was before I'd even done up the house. I had friends coming to stay and we had nothing to sit on. So I went to the flea market, because there's a flea market here in Marrakech, and I was on a panic shop and I'm like, I need chairs, I need something that we can all sit on. So I bought this wicker set, which has got a little sofa, table and 2 chairs. It was €30. And I asked my builder to paint it black for me so it would all tie in. And it gets very well used. It's sitting in the blurring sun. It's probably going to get another lick of paint very soon because it's been a year and a half now since it was first painted. But it's old and it's soft, and that's kind of what I wanted to enjoy. And then I'm going to take you through to the boo, which is the little seating area here. And it's a quiet little area. It's the coolest spot in the whole house. And it's where you can just enjoy quiet time. You can read a book, you can have your mint tea. I like my candles. I've got these beautiful gold candlesticks that are scaparelli, and they all tie in beautifully. They were a gift from Daniel Rosebery. The house has got Art Deco, that decadence time, in the way that I've done out the decor of the house. Here I have, which is original for the house, which is the gyps, which is where the whole ceiling and the walls have been hand carved to get this beautiful decorative detailing. You'll find this all over Marrakech. I've got this gorgeous, it's where I've pulled all the colours together on my seating area, which is like a nice big thick linen seating, which is again, it keeps me nice and cool when the weather gets really hot. I can sit and have my mint tea, read a book and just watch the running water, make a little bit of a break for myself. I have a very eclectic style in my personal taste. Very often I love anything that I can see the handwork of the artist, and it doesn't mean that I don't love modern engineering and technology within creativity, because it's also incredibly important when it's applied well. But there's something about perfection being imperfect for me, and that I love to see the spirit of the artist in the work. And I think a lot of the work that I've bought and collected, it's because I feel the spirit of the artist in that work, and I can see how much love they put into it. And that's in both the architecture and in the art I collect. And I think that's been something that has lasted all the way through my art collection. Here I have artworks, I have sculptures, but I have embroideries that I consider an artwork because somebody has illustrated that, somebody has put it together. And I'm very loose on the terminology of you're an artist or you're not an artist, because if you're creating something and then you're producing it with an unlimited amount of love and care for that work, and that's where the element of craftsmanship comes in, which is I'm not making a shortcut. I want it to be exactly as it should be in the best version of itself. That is art. So yeah, a lot of the artists' work that I have here, it's both paintings of artists' works that I've bought. I have many sculptures that I have in the house, but they're all celebrating, they all look very different, but they're all celebrating, I suppose, the artists that made it. And that they've all, you know, they all fit in, I suppose, because I'm drawn to them all equally. Here we are on the first floor landing, and it's another seated area that you find in all the riads that are on each floor. And this leads into my bedroom. This is where I had the beautiful doors that I bought, and the framework all made so that not only do I see it every time I go into our room, but everybody sees it because it's literally on the first floor landing. This is, I suppose it's a celebration of the artisans that you find in Marrakech. It's hand carved with camel bone, and it's actually a Syrian technique. And like all crafts travel around the world, and people, they have a craft, and then as they travel, they pass it on to another civilization, to another area, and that other country uses that craftsmanship to create their own motifs and their own designs. So I fell in love with this immediately. I love the decorative detailing of all the foliage and the flowers, and I'm a big fan of the decorative arts. So I'll mix my art deco and my decorative arts all in together. Such a beautiful idea of what you can do by supporting artisans to still make things. Because if we don't buy things that are still made by hand, people will stop learning those skills. And I think that's what's so important, to make sure that we appreciate them and that we keep them in our homes and we live with them. So yeah, this was my special purchase. I fell in love with it. I had to make it happen. My builder cursed me forever because we had to change the door and everything. But as you could see, it makes this entrance and it makes the room. And then we come into what is my bedroom, and the palette, which has got this beautiful Tadillac plaster pink, which is, it's soft, it's kind of feminine, I suppose, in a way. But it mixes in beautifully as the whole beige matte floor kind of feeds through to it. And, the whole house is actually finished with this Tadillac finish, which is where they mix the pigments, like a painter does, into the plaster that they create. And it's a natural lime plaster. So you'll see this in bathrooms because it's good for hot weather, it's good for water, it's good for you, it's got really good properties in the materiality. And when they make these colours, it's just like the floors. Every single time they mix a batch of it, it's going to be a slightly different colour. So it's not a flat colour in any way. Every single shade of this plaster pink, you can see as it's been applied because it's different pigments mixed by hand. It's never going to be recreated the same way. Here I have a beautiful alabaster vase, which I treated myself to, and the wicker, which you see everywhere in Marrakech, and it allows me to hide all my goodies, my clothes, my shoes, the things I leave behind. So it means when I come here, I can live this weather and have everything I need. And as you come through to my bedroom, I have a leather floor. The floor was it's hand stitched and was made for this room. And again, it was an incredible artisan who came in. I think traditionally this would have been camel leather, but I'm pretty sure that I have cow. And he put all the panels in, and you could see the hand stitching. He sat in this room and hand stitched it all together, which is just amazing. And I really wanted a leather floor for this room because of the shape of it. I didn't think I could get a rug, but I wanted to walk on something that was soft. And again, bring a warm material into the riad so that it softened any noise and it allowed me to feel relaxed and just luxurious as well. I mean, it's such a great pleasure and very easy to look after. Again, I was just thrilled to have that lovely old man who's been making leather sofas, chairs, and moved on to floors to make sure that there's a living for him, that he still is appreciated in the craftsmanship and the work that he can do. And then obviously there's a bench that I had made. I had this beautiful bed made, which makes me feel like a little princess, I have to be honest. And here we get to one of the paintings, Stephen Doherty, which is one of the artists from Sarabande, and I bought it through House of Bandits. And I bought it in London, but it had to get in a lorry and come over to Marrakech because I felt that this beautiful flower lived here. It picks up all the colours. It's a hand painted with inks, and I have a couple of Stephen's works. They're really beautiful, and it picks up this dark brown that you see within the leather floor. This beautiful faded pinks that I'm picking up on the walls as well, and then I have this amazing silk fabric here. I've had this for probably 20 years, maybe 15 to 20 years. And it was an artwork that was created at Alexander McQueen, where I started my career, and it was never used. And it's called a strike-off. So the team would have drawn this and we would have looked at it and then we would have gone, no, it doesn't work. And I just remember at the time thinking, well, I'm going to have that if nobody else wants it. And it's been sitting in London in a carrier bag, waiting for its moment to really live. So as soon as Birdcage became a reality, I brought the fabric over here. I had it framed in Marrakech, where there's some amazing framers, and I picked up this beautiful gold kind of colour, this burnt kind of gold colour, which I use in all the framings here, and it just picks up this gorgeous. These are the birds that are in Birdcage. Again, they're not real. They're not kept in cages, but it just ties it all together. As I walk through here, I can show you, I've got this very traditional, like a little balcony that overlooks that you can see out of, and it's all made of wood, which is gorgeous. And this was a cover that I bought in India, again, a long time ago. Never had a home for it in London, and I was thrilled because it brings in all the birds and all the colours, and it fits in beautifully with this beautiful pink kind of colour that this room all ties together. And then this was one of my fun purchases from the flea market. And if anybody ever comes to Marrakech, you can buy these. There's some incredible stores in the Medina, very close to where I am in Mousine, who have this gorgeous inlaid mother of pearl, bone and wood detailing. And the workmanship is incredible. You know, just to think that somebody is sitting there cutting all these pieces out and laying them all in. But I bought this in the flea market, which was a great find, and I was really thrilled to find it. Fits in perfectly, and it's something I've always wanted, but doesn't work in my London home. And the light fitting I also got in the flea market. You know, there's some incredible, really large houses in Marrakech, in the Palmery, which are big, grand, beautiful houses owned by some very, very wealthy people. And I love the fact that if you have a little bit of an eye and you go wandering, you'll find where they've changed their decor over, and I'm repurposed it back for Birdcage. It's found its home, the same as the light as well, which is it's obviously not Art Deco, but it fits in with my colourways along the way. And then we'll go through to my bathroom. And here it is in black Tadillac, tying it together, and this beautiful marble, which I went to the marble suppliers, where outside of Marrakech, and it's where you can pick the marble that you really want yourself. And then I also found this. There's an area called Sidi Gahem it's about 20 minutes outside. It's where all the interior designers in Marrakech have their showrooms. And I found this beautiful antique light fitting, which brought together again that idea of this is an Art Deco kind of home that has works and antiques that have been collected over time. And that's what I'm trying to create. Nothing that looks too new, because why have a beautiful old house in a World Heritage site if everything looks brand new? So it was a finding a couple of beautiful antiques, a couple of the local, like very easy to find details that you literally see everywhere in the souks, easy to pick up, and then mixing it with the baskets, with the locally found items, which, you know, if we don't buy things locally, I'm a great believer, if you don't buy things from where you live, nobody else is going to come and find them. And then just playing with, this was also from one of the artisans in the, just about 20 minutes outside of Marrakech, which is where I bought a lot of the big light fittings from. This is the yellow room, which has got my gorgeous French bed that has literally travelled all over the world. And just to give you a little story about the bed, it's obviously French in its design. You can see it's all the carved wood and the shape of it. And when I used to live in New York and used to work for Thom Browne, I bought this bed from Tennessee. I had it shipped from Tennessee to New York. And then I had Alexander McQueen company make this gorgeous silk fabric for me with all the birds in white. So it captures all of this. And this is the bed I had when I was living in New York. It captures all that Art Deco, beautiful illustrative kind of details, which I really love, on the black silk. And then here in the bedding, I've got this incredible embroidery, and this is all done by hand, and I commissioned this to be made for the room. And, you know, you find a lot of embroidery with all the other craftsmanships that you find in Morocco. This kind of embroidery is coming from the city rather than from the rural areas. It's very fine, it's silk or put onto cotton, and it's just a stunning, stunning, stunning design that really just brings the whole room together. Here I have some artwork by another Sarabande photographer called Kasia Wozniak, and her work, she uses a camera that's about 120 years old. It's called wet plate collodion. So the camera actually only takes images onto either a metal or a glass plate, and it uses real silver to actually create the images. This is a print, obviously, that's been created from there. And you can see that on the edges, that's where the silver of the actual print is all kind of from the way that the technique of the camera works. You know, so it's an extremely difficult technique to use. And then these are some of the lanterns that I found when my friend Jan took me outside to where all the artisans are. It's crazy to think there's a man just sitting here making each pane of glass, each tiny little detail, so that you get these, fairly simple looking lanterns, but with so much work. This room didn't have a bathroom when I bought it, so I probably had to do the most amount of work here, and I've built a little ensuite, which is all using the black, yellow, gold, which is really tying the whole Riad together with this gorgeous hand-carved doors, which I used everywhere. And there's obviously a much simpler way, but again, when you make a decision that you want to support craftsmanship, I made the decision that I'll just do it in every opportunity I can. So when my builder said, okay, we need doors, I'm like, I want that lovely hand-carved finish, which is what they create in all the special areas. And I've done it even in the kitchen and even in areas that you would not normally do, because it's a small Riad, but I wanted every detail just to be able to look at it and just to be able to really enjoy the work that had gone into it. So we have a gorgeous bone mirror here, which I also bought, which is a camel bone inlaid mirror that you'll be able to see. And as we leave, back to the walkway with this beautiful detailing on the floor, which took the artisan so long to do, but it's probably the strongest feature that's going to be permanently here now. Birdcage is such a special place for me. I love being, I love being in my bedroom. It's such a little oasis. Here it's a real escape. You know, you close the door behind you, and even the Medina, it's bustling and it's fun and the souks are there, but the space here is really, really relaxing. I've made it into a real little jewellery box that is relaxing. It's full of beautiful things to look at. I find myself really relaxed here and absorbing, I think, a lot of the little details that have been gathered along the way, you know. And I've got beautiful candlelight in the living room, which when my friends are staying, we sit downstairs. When it's cold, we light the fire, and it's cozy. And there's never one time that is my favourite time, because each different part of the day has got a special moment, I suppose. I'm going to take you up to the top floor now, to the terrace, and talk a little bit about the details as we go up the stairs. Through the whole staircase is this wrought iron decor sculpture, I suppose, for any other word I can't find. And this was already in the house when I bought it. The house hadn't been touched since the 80s and 90s. And to be honest, I saw this and I hated it, because the whole house felt very over-designed. It was all different colours. Yet when I took back and I removed all the other details and I took the palette back to a much tighter colour, I just really fell in love with it again. And because it's in this beautiful black and it's organic and the shapes are not set, they're not very angular, you know, there's a whole shape and a movement to it. And I felt it really fitted in with the staircase. And the staircase is in the beige mat, and I've added little black noses along the way so that sometimes in the dark I know where the steps are, especially if you've not been here before. It just means it lights up the floor for you. And here we are on the terrace. This is where I spend a lot of time. It's where we have breakfast in the mornings. I have all of the plates and everything kept here so that we can sit and enjoy the early morning sun before it gets a little harsh, because let's be honest, we are in Marrakech. It is in the desert and it does get very hot. And then here's the large, literally relaxing area. And when we talk about where we relax the most, it's normally up here. I get this gorgeous light kind of coming through and leaving little patterns on the seating area. This wonky old table, which I bought in the flea market. Again, there was lots of opportunities to buy new things, but I love things that have got a little bit of a story and somebody else's life. And I wanted the Riad to feel that it had people living in it all over from the past, and they all had their own stories. So I didn't want to get everything just from one era and from one place. It's all got to come together in this mishmash of life, you know, and the people that might have lived here in the hundreds of years that this Riad has stood. So this is the lovely chilled area. I have a fire for the winter, because actually sometimes sitting outside and leaving the fire going, like playing backgammon, it's a perfect way to spend an evening. Being upstairs and in the sun, I've managed to grow some citrus trees, which early in the year were in, you know, they're just starting. I can see that I've got a couple of citrus here. When the orange blossom was out, it was amazing. It just smelt amazing. So I'm in that in between now. I've no more orange blossom, just the promise of some oranges along the way. I can just see them all here. And then we have a cassia tree. I'd never heard of this before. It smells like jasmine, which is just so beautiful. And then the seating area here, which is where you get the afternoon sun, and it's next to this gorgeous wall that belongs to my neighbour. It's so gorgeous, but it is crumbling, and I'm torn because I love the pattern of it. I love the work that's been done with all the zigzags, but I know that it's not very stable and I probably need to cover it, but I'm hanging on. It's strong enough to stand. I'm just putting off the moment when I have to cover up all the gorgeous workmanship, because it will never be done the same again. So I'm enjoying it a little bit longer before I have to coat it with a layer of Tadalac that will stop the little bits in between the tiles of breaking away. Here I have a peach tree. I haven't seen a peach yet. So we're going to give it another 2 years. And if peaches don't appear, she's going to go back to the nursery she came from, and we're going to swap her for a lemon tree. So I'm hoping she's heard that, because that's her, she's in trouble. Here we have an upstairs bedroom, which is a really nice escape for people. And then here I have another gorgeous orange tree with the promise of oranges, which makes me happy because I haven't been here for 6 weeks, and when I came 6 weeks ago, there was no oranges on the tree, and I was starting to get a bit worried because, again, the pleasure about having a home in Marrakech is that I can grow things that I can't grow in London, and I'm certainly not growing very many oranges in London, sad to say. Here's the breakfast area. This is where we can enjoy breakfast in the early morning sun before it gets too harsh. And again, it's got a Zélige table. You can see all the colours. They're all handmade tiles. Every tile is a different colour. Again, the edges are not hard. They're all soft where they slightly chip away, but that's exactly what we want to celebrate in this material. And this is, I've made it feel like a little living room. It's a little camp, but it's just a fun place in the morning when everybody who's staying here, all the friends, they all come and sit round together. And I've got this lovely plant here. I've got a bougainvillea, which has normally full of flowers. It's going off its season right now, but it's just a beautiful kind of little spot here that gets, as I said, the morning sun before it gets too harsh. So it's a great way to spend the day in the morning. I mean, being at home is really being a place that you can enjoy both being with yourself and sharing with others. I think that's what home really is. This is a place where I'm equally happy just being by myself, spending time, relaxing, doing chores, making lunch, doing things that I would normally just do, but it's because it's a home, I want people to enjoy it with me. So it's that duality where you're feathering a nest. Again, I go back to that birdcage kind of relationship, which is it's a home that I want filled with things that I love and that remind me of the people around me, and that definitely does. There's a lot of people who have contributed to this house that I've loved for a long time, artists that I've worked with for a long time. There are some amazing friends of mine called Rogers and Goffingam that make the most exquisite materials from all over the world, beautiful linens, beautiful cottons, beautiful wools and velvets. And they work with some of the greatest artisans in Europe and the oldest mills. And they've allowed me to use some of their fabrics in this house. So whenever I see the linens and the woven materials, it reminds me of them. There's some artworks that I've bought along the way and that friends have bought me. And that's lovely to look at because it reminds me of them as well. So I think that's what's really special about this place, is it reminds me of a lot of friends that have made this happen. Homeworthy, it's been so nice showing you around Birdcage in Marrakech, but I've got to get a flight, sadly, back to London, so you're going to have to go. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.